Welcome to the Sports Betting Podcast from pregame.com. This is Thanksgiving 2009. Your host, Marco D'Angelo, along with Vegas Runner, a professional Las Vegas bettor here in Las Vegas. This is segment 3 of 6, big game preview, Notre Dame, Stanford. As you see, we have an empty chair. Our CEO, RJ Bell, had to step out for some CEO business. That's what we're supposed to tell you. Truth be told, during the break, Vegas Runner, he tied RJ up. He said, I'm number one in the NFL. Don't interrupt me when I talk. And so we're doing this segment without RJ.
I didn't like it at all.
Okay. Notre Dame, Stanford. You're the lines man. Tell us the numbers.
All right. This one had some strange movement. Not strange, all in the same direction, but a big difference in opinions. The first book that opened up a number on this game was Chris, and they put out as low as 5.5. Money came on Stanford right away. Within a minute and a half, they moved it all the way up to 7. That's where it opened up everywhere else. On Sunday evening. As of today, Stanford's up to 10. Total opened 62.5 up to 64.5. So we're seeing plenty of money on the favorite and plenty of money on the over.
Well, obviously, you can't start talking about Notre Dame and Stanford without, talking about the coaching situation.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, this could be the last regular season game for both coaches, really, because there's a lot. I mean, obviously, everybody in our world believes this is the last game for Charlie Weiss. He's going to be.
And it should be.
He's going to be gone.
He's had all the
Dame.
chances. Come on.
But there's also some sentiment that Harbaugh is going to be moving on to bigger and better things.
With the job he's done
at Stanford, and who knows? Notre Dame has hired a former Stanford coach before.
Wow.
Could we have deja vu?
Wow.
But actually, side note on this, I wrote a blog about the Notre Dame coaching situation, and if you like conspiracy theories, read this blog, and I'll tell you why Notre Dame is where they're at today. I don't want to give away the blog. Check it out at pregameblogs.com. And check it out. It's an interesting read. But let's get to this game. Notre Dame, can it get any worse? I was on Notre Dame last week. I took a lot of heat for it.
I like them too.
And, you're up 14-0 at home. Boom, boom. One of the most storied football stadiums in the country. You don't let a team that's playing for the first time at Notre Dame come back and run over you the way they did. And the problem is,
UConn's not one of them teams that just quits. They're that gruddy team that's going to stick around. You can't just think you go up 2 touchdowns and that's going to be the end of it. You could coast.
What's killed Notre Dame? They've got one of the best offenses in the country. Their passing game Their passing game is pro style, but defensively they cannot stop the run. Not at all. And going against Stanford and their running back, who is making a late season surge to at least get mentioned for the Heisman.
Yeah.
How do they stop him? What do you see here in this game that indicates that Notre Dame can stop Stanford?
I mean, the whole defense is terrible for Notre Dame. Let's just start there. I mean, they're terrible against the pass. They're terrible against the run. So, I mean, you could beat them both ways. Surprisingly, this Stanford is now a 10-point favorite. And this is a series that's been dominated by Notre Dame. Sure, that was previous Stanford teams. But, I mean, Notre Dame's 8-1 straight up the last 9 against this team. And here they are getting 10 points. And this is a pretty big game for them. They're 6-5. They don't want to end up at 500 for the season. So it's tough. What I was a Stanford believer. What threw me off was how bad they played last week. I mean, they only held the ball for 21 minutes, so they got dominated. And coming off wins against USC, Oregon, Arizona State, I really thought they wouldn't have been in that letdown spot, because usually it's good teams that are in letdown spots, not teams that aren't supposed to be there anyway. I mean, who'd have thought Stanford would be sitting at 7-4? But, I mean, their home field edge is huge. You can't overlook that. They're 5-1 this year at home, and more importantly, this team always seems to cover at home. I went back and I looked at last year's game because Notre Dame won that one by a touchdown at Notre Dame. They were a 5.5-point favorite. They covered the game. What I saw was Stanford turned the ball over 4 times and only lost by 7. So that was a game they could have very easily won. And this year's Stanford team is, 100 times better than that one. So this is going to be a very difficult game for Notre Dame. But again, I'm surprised the line is this high because Notre Dame has them backers that are going to bet them every week, regardless of how many times they get burned.
Well, there's no question. You cannot turn ESPN on this week and not see Charlie Weiss's
Exactly.
face. So a lot of that has to do with public perception.
Yeah, that's true. The negativity towards Dame now.
As far as Stanford last week, actually, I had Cal last week, and I liked them, a lot. This was a situation, they were in a bad spot last week. Coming off the Southern Cal game, the way they destroyed Southern Cal, and more so, and I even on the radio show we have here at Pregame, which Dan Beebe and Mike Hook do every day, I was on their Thursday show, and that was my free pick last week on the show, and I ended up using it as a premium play. What I said was that fourth quarter of the Southern Cal game, when that game got out of hand and Stanford kept scoring, they were enjoying themselves way too much. And Cal-Stanford is a rivalry game. And, we talked about it this week. It's a big rivalry game. Cal wanted nothing better to go in and spoil Stanford's, Pac-10 championship hopes. And this was one of those games last week, VR, that I love to talk to you, and I say that teaser handicap mentality. You look at the line when it was at 7 in that game. Tease
just the
Cal to 14 or Stanford to pick. More people are going to take Stanford to pick because that's a lock. There's no way they're going to lose. But there is question the way Cal had played some of their games this year.
Yeah, they've been blown out in games they didn't win. They were blown out in.
So that's what sewed it up for me that, Cal at that, taking the 7 was the right side. Now this week it's a different story because Notre Dame with their offense, even when they've lost this year, Notre Dame has not gotten blown out. Notre Dame's been in their games, case in point, 2 weeks ago when they played Pitt. They were totally dominated by Pitt. But yet, in that fourth quarter, with that quick strike offense, and when a team gets a lead, sometimes they go into the prevent and they rest on their lead. Notre Dame was able to come back and get the backdoor cover. So that's something that you got to worry about with Notre Dame this week.
With that many points. But, too, Stanford has a terrible defense. Let's tell it like it is. The offense is what's doing everything, and like you touched on earlier, the Russian game. They're 13th in the nation in rushing. When you look at them defensively, they're 81st in total defense, 98th against the pass. So, Clausen should have a big day against this team. The only thing I was surprised, I know it was a letdown spot, and you made total sense, but, every week was a letdown spot for them. They beat Arizona State, then they beat Oregon, then they beat USC. It was like letdown after letdown after letdown. Sooner or later, they're going to lose.
USC, no matter what.
Yeah, they're the elite. Sure.
That's the game.
In the Pac-10, absolutely.
And to beat them the way they did. Quickly wrapping up here, maybe the way to look at this game, and I know there's no value because they really pumped this total. But sometimes in college football,
it don't matter.
You can't put a number high enough. In the way these two teams score, I easily could see the winning team, getting into the 40s. And if they're exchanging touchdowns, you could see 70+ points on Saturday in this game.
If the winner scores 40, you're going to get an over.
So you might want to look at the over. That's segment 3 of 6. We'll be back with segment 4, where we're going to take a look at a big game preview coming up, Indianapolis and Houston.